a very enlightening conversation that both Anup and Anand had. There were so many themes that went around. This started not just by data silos and how the millennials are going to get engaged in the entire banking structure, but also spoke about how security, how GDPR is going to impact the world. I would be preaching to the choir here if we talk about the fact that technology is becoming ubiquitous, right? I think all of us live, breathe technology every single day. I love the statement that Anup made, which is that banks are technology companies, with specific focus on banking, and that's the reality. I think there's nothing better than this particular chart, which demonstrates how technology is changing the world. If you look over the last millennial, what you have today, the top 5 companies by valuation are all technology companies. These are companies that have only and only done technology all their life, right? So they're born, brought up on technology, and that's what they do for a living. Now imagine in this world, if banks are not technology companies, where are we going to go? There's a world that's changed. By the way, when technology companies, and specifically in the internet world came, it was more on the retail side, right? It was more on the social side. People never imagined that the fundamental changes in banking would be so dominant. Now look at what has changed. There are 3 kinds of firms that exist in the banking world today. First are the tech-fin firms, right? Second are FinTech firms. And the third are the traditional banks. Now the FinTech and the tech-fin have actually changed the paradigm of entire banking structures in the entire globe. It's not just for the millennials, rightly as Anup said, it's also for the corporates. Now, what is the difference between the two? The technology firms have originated as the tech-fin firms have originated as technology firms, and then they realized that there is a niche that's available. There are opportunities that are available in the finance sector where they could go and use the technology to make a better thing out of the finance sector. And the classic example would be a Google. A classic example would be what Baidu or Tencent or Alibaba are doing, and we know there are quite a few of those even in country. The second is the FinTech. And FinTech are the organizations that were born to service finance as an industry, but using very strong underlying technology layer. Very, very strong underlying technology layer. They do not come with any baggage or any legacy. And the third, obviously, are the traditional banks who've been servicing this industry forever and ever. Now, as FinTech and TechFin came in, it started changing the world. Now, I'm quoting the source here, and the source is actually the World FinTech Report of 2018, which is done by Capgemini in conjunction with LinkedIn. Couple of things that this report said. Between the TechFin and the FinTech, just the origin is different, but the approach is very, very similar. Now, if you were to look at this, what they're looking at is what they're providing is agility, what they're providing is new customer experience, and more importantly, the biggest advantage that they have is that they're digitally native. The infrastructure is digital at the heart of it. Now let's look at what's the big advantage of the traditional banks. Clearly, the trust that customers repose in traditional banks because of all of the brand that they have built over the years, but more importantly, customers, be it corporates, be it individual customers, are used to banking with them and trust the fact that their money is secure. But look at the flip side of it. The FinTech, TechFin world has not been able to make profits enough. At this point in time, certainly. But when you look at the traditional banks, the biggest disadvantage that they have today is exactly what Anup and Anand spoke about, the data silos. The fact that they've grown organically and the IT world is in a siloed mechanism, which is why they have legacy. So the advantage of one is the disadvantage of another. But the world that we are in today is not a competition world between a FinTech versus traditional, it's a world of collaboration. And as that collaboration moves, again, something that came from the same report, is that the success of these organizations, which is all 3 of them, that's TechFin, FinTech, and the traditional banks, will solely rely upon the ability to utilize data to get insights. A lot of this was spoken in the fireside chat that we just had, but reality is what you see here underlined, that ability to collect, analyze the data, and then act upon it. That ability will define the success of any of these finance organizations. Where does this take us? It takes us back to the same point, that there's an immense value in unlocking the data. Data is the new oil, and unless organizations are able to unlock the data and be able to make sense out of that data for the 258 million transactions that Yes Bank has had, there's very little that one can do about addressing new customer requirements and also creating new customer experiences. Now, in our view, it's a virtuous cycle of data. Really, it's about sensing the data, making sense of the data, and then acting upon it. Very easily put, this world is today full of sensors. There's data that's flowing in from multiple sources. There's data that's coming in from cloud applications. There's data that's coming in from mobile applications. There's data that's coming in from retail branches. How do you go sense and capture that data? And then, once captured, how does one go analyze? Being able to analyze gives the ability to act. So sensing is not the only thing, it's about analyzing and then acting. And by the way, the success is not just in being able to cover the cycle once. The success factor is in making this loop quicker and quicker. It's about, once the data is there, create new applications. Once the data is there, analyze the data, basis which you create new applications, which are better in giving more real-time sense, working on it, and so on and so forth. So it's a virtuous cycle. The day organizations are able to crack the code of making this virtuous cycle quicker and faster, that's the day customer experiences and customer products will tend to change. What I'm going to talk now, effectively over the next 7 to 8 minutes, are three things. The three key trends in the industry, in the technology world. The first and foremost is around IoT, and that's the sense part of it. The second is really about the analyze part of it, which is data cannot be analyzed by human beings anymore at the scale that it exists, and that's where AI/ML comes in. And third is about customer experience, not just the external customer, but even the internal. Let me get started with IoT. First and foremost, IoT in the banking world, is it important? A lot of people tend to believe no. It's a manufacturing world game. But remember, IoT is important and will continue to be far more important as more and more wearable devices come in, as the human beings interact in the day-to-day function with machines far more. And which is where the understanding of IoT as a concept is critical. It's about getting data from multiple sources, being able to capture that data in the right format, and then moving it across the cycle to analyze and then act. So IoT as a concept requires one to understand that the world has changed from just being data center and the data center at the core and cloud. The computing needs to now move from edge to data center to cloud. And there would be computation that's required on the edge itself, and there's computation that can be done only at core, and there's computation that needs to happen only at cloud. Let me give you an example, and not the best example from a banking fraternity standpoint, but think about self-driving cars. A self-driving car needs to compute right at the edge. It cannot have the data go back into the data center and get analyzed, because by then, things would have gone awry completely, right? So it's very, very critical on how data integrity happens and data movement, mobility happens across the three layers, that's edge, core, cloud, and likewise, being able to segregate what computation needs to happen at edge versus what needs to happen at core versus what needs to happen at cloud. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in a snapshot, is really what IoT can do for the world going forward, particularly in the banking space. Let's talk about the next big thing. And no guesses here. In fact, this is a bigger thing today as compared to anything else. AI/ML is ruling the roost. I think all of you here, including us, are talking AI/ML language far more than we have ever spoken in the world. There's so much around us happening as consumers around AI/ML alone. Now, what made it happen? By the way, it's quite an oxymoron that AI is the new thing, because AI as a terminology got coined way back in 1956. We are talking about AI today, 6 decades down, as the new thing. The reason is very simple. While AI as a concept existed, what AI did not have was enough data. What AI did not have was computational power. AI did not have the data storage. And the algos, while they existed, could have been done better. But those algos, which are the brains, can now work because there's a fuel of data and there's engine of compute. All three of these coming together is what's making AI a reality. There's a lot of stuff which is happening around this, and I'll just give you an example. I was in our organization, a lot of analytics that we do is being done purely using AI ML algorithms. There was a particular panel that I was a part of judging a couple of projects that were happening, and 80% of the projects were using ML or AI algos. In banking, when you have the kind of data that you have, there is no way human beings will ever be able to go get intelligence and analysis out of that, which is where AI ML becomes supremely critical. The kind of use cases are across the board. The use cases are in increasing revenue and building new products, but equally importantly, they are into building the customer experience. Right from a cost and from a revenue standpoint, right from fraud detection, up to making newer products which can then immerse and engage with your customers far better so that you have more data that you can go analyze. And let's move to the third one. And this is really about how we interact with the machines, right? When we started in the computational world, it was really about us going to machines. There were computers all around. We would go and work on those. That was the wave one. Second wave was really about mobility, where we could now go and work on the laptops at our home and in office and on the way. But the third is the most interesting one, and that is immersive experience. With all that's happening around AR, VR, with all of the devices that are in hands of the millennials and all the workers, the immersive experiences are what will bring the next level of customer experience, the next level of customer engagement, and equally importantly, the next level of employee engagement and employee experience. We cannot leave our workforce on the edge. The workforce needs to be as much a part of the core as anything else ever has been. So coming back in a nutshell, the three things that we spoke about in particular. Number one is IoT and the ability to sense data using IoT. Number two is around AI ML, which is about analyzing the data that's been captured. And number three is by using immersive technologies to create better customer experiences, which can allow you to make far better applications that give you far more real-time analysis. So that virtuous cycle of data is what every single banking organization needs to be able to do as they go compete with the tech fins and the fintechs of the world, and likewise on the other side. As an organization, Dell Technologies is a family of 7 organizations, 7 companies, right from Dell EMC. On the security side, we have got RSA, we have got SecureWorks, and on the cloud side, we have got VMware. We have got Pivotal, which is on cloud-native applications, and then VirtuStream, which is an enterprise-class cloud. The reason we are in existence is because of the fact that the capabilities that we bring on table with all of these organizations together are unparalleled. We are now able to talk right from edge to core to cloud, including the devices and being able to host services right on the data center. So that really, ladies and gentlemen, is what brings us in a unique position and in a vantage position of knowing our customers across tech, fintech, and traditional banks. And that's the kind of value and services that we bring on table. In a nutshell, the 4 transformations, which is digital, which is IT, which is workforce and security, something that was spoken very widely in the last conversation, are all available through the suite of portfolio that we carry. So let me just end this conversation by thanking all of you, and thanking all of you because in our partnership with you, we are now the #1 vendor when it comes to compute. We are the #1 vendor when it comes to hyperconvert. We are the #1 vendor when it comes to storage, when it comes to backup, and a whole lot of other places. So ladies and gentlemen, we are available, will be available across through the next couple of hours for conversation, and please engage us, and we would like to be your trusted partner in this journey of you being a digitally transformed organization. Thank you.